Hi everyone, I am streaming on 2 devices, so give me 1 second to go live on the second event. Hold on, I'm going to pin something here. Oh, let me pin that. Okay, all right, and I'm going to go live on the second stream. All right, I am live on, I'm streaming, I apologize, I'm streaming on 2 different platforms today, so I had to just log on to both. So I am Anna Livermore from V.Mora, and thank you all for joining me today. I own a company called V.Mora. We help launch fashion designers. So we do patterns and samples, manage production. I also do one-on-one coaching to help figure out budget and finance and timeline and give you the resources that you'll need in order to implement being a designer. And if you would like to contact me, I have pinned. You can contact me through Makers Row. I'll go ahead and type this in. Makers Row, so makersrow.com/V-Mora. Cool. So that's how you can contact me, and we are today talking about 5 mistakes that new entrepreneurs make. We are coincidingly doing this with the launch of the Embark Live, which is, if you guys know Makers Row, it's really an amazing platform where you can find vendors and factories and companies like V.Mora, and Makers Row is branching out into what's called Embark Live, where they've pulled a collective of, I'm in the office today, and I've got my girls in the background here. So yes, manufacturing in New York opened June 8th, so everything is getting back to normal. So Embark Live has all these experts with video content. So I've got a bunch of videos up there, like Q&As, ways that you can just get expert advice. And if you wanted to hire any of us, there's a way to hire us through Embark Live. Last thing, there's a promo code ANNA, A-N-N-A, when signing up for Embark Live, and that will get you the first 6 months of being a member on the platform for free. So be sure to use that. Okay, so that's the whole introduction, the whole spiel. Today we're talking about the 5 mistakes new entrepreneurs make. And hopefully you're new enough that you haven't made any of these, but if you have, it's fine. I think I've made all of these. I've been in business for 12 years. So if you had made these mistakes, you can still survive, learn from them, grow, and continue to push through. So we're going to go through these mistakes, and hopefully you can avoid them or figure out ways to get through them. The number one misconception of new designers and new entrepreneurs is that success is going to happen overnight. And that is never the case. You know, if you launch something and it doesn't right away sell and it doesn't give you the results that you want right away, you just have to continue that snowball, because it's a snowball effect that's happening behind the scenes. More and more people are seeing your product, more and more people are hearing about you, and it will happen quickly. When I tell designers, like, if you're going to be selling wholesale, which not a lot of people sell wholesale in today's market, but when I did work with designers selling wholesale, your first 5 boutiques are by far the hardest accounts to gain. And after you get those first 5 boutiques, it snowballs, because all of that work that you've put in will build off of each other and be working behind the scenes. So expecting overnight success, and when it doesn't happen, letting that get you down, it's just not a reality. And anyone that we see that comes onto the scene, it looks like from our perspective that it happened overnight, because here you didn't know who this person is, and now here they are, super successful everywhere. But I would guarantee that they have been pushing their marketing, and that they've been working, and that there's been things happening behind the scenes before you knew them. So it's never, I don't know that there's ever such a thing as overnight success. So planning for that and knowing that you're gonna have to put your work in before you start seeing those profits. Number 2 is budget. Budget is so important, and it's not the fun part of business, but it's you have to do it, right? And when you're budgeting for a collection as a designer, you need to budget through the first season samples, the first season's production, and then the second season samples. So budget all the way through, because you won't be getting paid on that production from that first season before you have to start developing the samples for your second season. But budgeting all along, budgeting in the beginning, how much can you spend? How much can you afford to spend? How much are you willing to spend? How are you spending that? How much are you putting into marketing, into photo shoots, into your website? How many styles are you developing? Budget is really, really important. And another thing I'm going to add here is once you start making money, that's also like a pivotal point to save for a rainy day. I mean, obviously with everything that just happened with COVID, we all have seen what can happen to the industry, and not being humble enough to know like it might not always be like this. I might need to change my designs or change my ideas, or things might run out to where you'll have to pivot, and you'll want to have the reserve funds in order to do that. Like if you go all in and you're like, this is amazing, I'm selling, I'm gonna just put all my money in exactly the way I did, you'll want to slowly start building that reserve so that, like something with COVID, you'll have that to lean back on. Taking on too much overhead too early on is also a part of budgeting. Just making sure that you're being very mindful. Now that's how I built my company. I didn't have a big loan to start out. I didn't have a huge amount of money saved. I just built really slowly off of profits, and it took me a while to get to the point. And if you guys saw my IG from last week, you'll know some of the trials and tribulations I went through to get to the point of having a successful company. But you'll just want to plan that. And even through COVID, the companies that had lower overhead, lower expenses, kind of went a little bit back on their production. People that didn't have so much to carry are more successfully getting through this than the companies that had huge inventories, that didn't have a savings, that kind of put everything into one bucket because they didn't have the humility to maybe think that something might happen. So budgeting all throughout, from the very beginning, budgeting once you start having money, how are you going to spend that money, and just being smart and pulling somebody in there that has experience. I have somebody that I talk to about budgeting and how I'm spending my money, someone that has more business experience than I do, and you should too. That will bring me to my next point is, as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's really hard to ask for help, and you can't do this on your own. I am 100% owner of my company, but I absolutely had experts. I pulled in business coaches. I asked for help. I had people that I knew financing really well, and I opened up my books to them and say, do you see anything I don't see? How am I spending my money? What would you suggest? So being able to ask for help, and it was hard for me in the beginning because it was a part of my ego to be like, I've got this is my company, nobody's gonna know it the way I do. But when I finally built up the nerve to ask for help, and that's because I had dropped to my knees at a point where I needed to ask for help because I was at a loss. I was building this company that was outside of my realm of expertise. I hadn't done it before. I hadn't been in these situations before. So it got me to a point where I had to ask for help. And when I did, I was so grateful. And I thought I should have done that a long time ago. Like, this would have solved so many of my issues. But a lot of my self is wrapped up into my company, and my self-worth is wrapped up into my company. So being able to ask for help has been huge. And as a new entrepreneur, doing the same will help you exponentially. Like, if you can find someone like me to help you build your company, someone that has experience, it's only going to help you. And you don't want to ask everybody you know, because everybody you know is going to give you different opinions. So pick a select few people that you trust and that have had their own sort of success in their own business. And those are the people you go to. Like, I have one person that I go through with my finances. I have one person that I go to with marketing ideas. So having these people that you can ask for help is really great. Number 4 is not researching your competition. As new entrepreneurs, you know, we tend to think like, no one has my idea. No one is as great as me. No one is doing what I'm doing. But that's just not true. There's got to be someone that's doing something similar, someone that has the same business strategy, someone that has the same customer, there's somebody out there that's doing what you're doing, and just do some research. See what you can learn from them. Had they made any mistakes that you can avoid? How could you take what they're doing and improve? But doing the amount of research that you need in the beginning, don't let it keep you back from launching at all and being afraid to take those steps, because that's not going to help either. But doing enough research that you feel comfortable that you know who your competition is. And then number 5 is not investing enough time and finances. If you don't have any finances for your marketing, but you'll definitely need to put time in. I have designers tell me, well, I'm only making 100 products for my first production, so I don't want to push too hard in my marketing because I don't want to sell out. I would rather you see the opposite. Push so hard that you sell out and things go on back order. Push so hard that you sell 600 units and then you have to work backwards to make an additional 500. So thinking that you have a great product and it's going to sell yourself just isn't the case, because how do people know it's going to be there? So if you're selling 100 garments and 1 out of 10 people, and that's pretty liberal, if 1 out of 10 people bought the product after seeing it, you would have to get that product in front of 1,000 people's eyes. So looking at it that way of like how many people you have to get in front of to get those 100 sales, and really just push hard. You can do that on your own. You can set up a marketing strategy, hashtags, collaborations, but definitely planning for that, as well as your photo shoot. If you have a great product but you don't have great photos, especially in today's day and age where everything's done online, you really need great photos. And then networking too. You never know who you're going to meet, and you know, maybe you can help them, maybe they can help you, but building these connections has absolutely made a huge difference in my life. And I'm not like crazy about networking. Like if you were like, hey Anna, you've got to go to this networking event, I'd be like, I don't want to go. I don't know why that is, but if I go with the intention of like, I'm just gonna have nice conversations with people, I'm gonna learn about people and ask them questions, then I always end up getting that really great business advice or relationship, something comes out of it. I go in with the intention of just learning about people and being interested in people, instead of a goal of like, what can you do to help me? Because people can also feel that too, of like if you go into a networking event and you're solely there to see what you can get out of the other people, just create relationships. So I'm gonna just run through this list again and then see if you guys have any other questions. And let's see, number 1 was expecting immediate results. Number 2 is not budgeting properly when you are starting your company, and then once you start getting some income, you'll have to do another budget. Number 3 is not asking for help. Number 4 is not thoroughly enough researching your competition. And number 5 is not investing enough time and money into your marketing and your networking and your photo shoots and everything that's going to make people know your product is out there. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 mistakes as a new entrepreneur you should avoid. I'm going to scroll through and see. I had some questions. So I am on 2 devices. You can ask me questions through either one. This is always the awkward part where I'm. V.Mora is the best. Are you still in Chicago? So I my office expanded to New York 8 years ago, and then I myself moved to New York 5 years ago, and as of 3 years, I've transferred everything, my office, my physical location, to New York. I still have a production manager that works in New York or in Chicago. I still have a lot of clients in Chicago. I make trips back there a lot, but as far as the physical office, that's in New York now. But I miss Chicago. And thank you. Okay. I'm still scrolling. Any tips on how to stay consistent with help? Systems. Any systems, checklists, like those are my favorite things. I personally have so many checklists and templates, everything, any system that you can set up so that there is a way to go about it, so that people that are helping you know what they need to do, what's expected of them. How to keep it not just a call, but staying consistent. Oh, so with the help, when you're asking for help, maybe plan it quarterly, where every quarter you reach out to this person and ask them certain questions. Keep the list of questions that you want to ask them tallied, so when you talk to them, you're not wasting their time or your time. You're prepared for that call, but just schedule it every quarter. It might, not have to be every day, every week, but keeping something scheduled. Okay, I need 100 baseball caps made. I provide the fabric. Okay, there are quite a few companies that make blanks for baseball camps. You can definitely find those on Maker's Row. I wouldn't suggest making a baseball cap from scratch when there's so many blanks readily available that you can add your logo and customize it any way you want, but you can find those companies on Maker's Row. What are the initial investments when you launch? You guys, this is the question I get every single time I'm live, ever. How much money do I need to start a company? And there is no answer that I can give you. Unfortunately, I don't know how many styles, how much production, what you're doing. So it's an impossible answer for me to answer for you. However, I do a 20-minute complimentary strategy session where we can talk about your product in more detail, and you can get that on the pinned message, makersrow.com/V-Mora. Any tips on building your team? I have my team, Catherine and Barbara. Come and meet everyone. I'm totally embarrassing them. But Catherine, I just always trust my intuition. This is Catherine. Barbara.
Hello, everybody.
But I always trust my intuition. Thanks, guys. On both Barbara and Catherine, they're really passionate about their jobs. I knew that it was a position that they could grow with. They were proactive. I always just trust my gut. You have to trust your gut when you're building your team, and it's got to be people that you want to be around. We're just back in the office and we missed each other. So you want it, for me anyways, I always wanted it to be a fun environment, and my, the work environment is almost more important than anything, because if people aren't getting along, if people don't want to come to work, that's going to affect you as a business owner. So keeping that in mind, and I have a tally of questions that I ask people in an interview to kind of figure out, are they bigger picture, are they detail oriented, how do they organize their time. I also took a personality test called the DISC, D-I-S-K, and the girls are laughing because it gives me like a full, this is who you are in the workplace, this is where your downfalls are, and these are the types of people that would work well under you because they think differently. So there's different personality tests that you can take to figure that out. But yeah, just interviewing and trusting your gut. First hire when you get money. First hire for me was a pattern maker, but if you're a designer, your first hire should be an assistant. Someone that's versatile, that can do social media, that can run errands for you, that can do other tasks for you, help you with your email, because I know when you're a designer, you're doing all of that yourself. And as a designer, you should be staying creative. If you start doing too much, you'll start to resent your business. And if you resent your business, you'll self-sabotage. So I always say personal assistant is the first hire. You can sometimes find that in an internship if you're near a school, but having someone to help you with just the day-to-day tasks, because as a business owner, where can you be the most profitable? And that's not running to UPS, and that's not picking up the zippers. Like, as a business owner, you have to figure out where you're making the most profitability for your company and then learn to outsource the rest. I used to say, okay, well, if I hired this person to help me do A, B, and C, then I can spend my time doing this and getting more clients and making more money for the business because I'm free of all these little tasks. So I would definitely say an assistant. In the process of starting my company, I live in San Diego. Do you suggest I work with professionals, pattern makers, manufacturers in Los Angeles? It depends on what you're making, Los Angeles, and your minimums. So, but I wouldn't be against it for sure, because it's drivable, which is amazing. But each place, like Los Angeles, tends to have higher minimums, focus more on activewear and swimwear. Chicago used to do all the military, so they're really good at tailored garments. And then New York will do smaller minimums, wovens, things like that. They also do swimwear, but the minimums tend to be a little bit lower, so it really just depends on what you're doing. How do I find the right networking events? I believe Makers Row has networking events, not right now, but I've been to quite a few Makers Row networking events. If you're a part of any social clubs, I know Soho House has networking events. Go to other designers' launch parties, go to pop-up shops, go to street fests that are based around fashion. Just go figure out. There's meetup groups, there's clubs based around just networking. So there's a ton out there. Just put it on your calendar that I would say if you're building your company, maybe every other week. I try to go once a month to something network-like. And you can also create your own. If you know designers, if you know entrepreneurs, you can start your own entrepreneur dinner. But yeah. How do you think this pandemic will affect the demand for clothing and shoes? So I've been reading a lot about the luxury market, how that is shifting. A lot of designers are sitting on inventory. One thing that I am pretty sure is happening now that might stick is it's June and people are selling summer. They plan to sell summer up until August or September, whereas normally by June they'd be pushing fall on us already, which seems bizarre. Like somehow the industry got so ahead of itself that I think it'll be closer to you buying in that actual season. I think that there's really room for on-demand marketing. I think that's going to grow where people aren't producing a large number of production. And yeah, I think that the luxury market, I was reading that it used to be everyone would fly to New York or Paris, but I guess China is going to have a larger luxury market than it has before. So there's a lot of shifting. I don't think that any of it is bad. It's just going to be, again, a pivot and figuring things out. Let's see. I make jewelry and I need models to model the product. How do I find models without coming off creepy? I'm assuming you mean on Instagram. You want to be as professional as possible. Have a page that has some business content on it and offer some sort of compensation, whether it's pieces of jewelry, or are you setting up the actual photo shoot and the model just shows up, or are you giving them the garments and they're responsible? But just make it really professional and stick to the bullet points of what you would want. You can also obviously hire a modeling agency for professional models, but I'm assuming you mean on Instagram, and I would just present it as professional as possible. Any influencer is used to getting approached to do that sort of thing. So Yeah, I mean, some people find models on the street too, but presenting yourself very professionally, if you have a contract, or setting up those boundaries of this is what it would look like, this is what the compensation is, here is my website. So just being as professional as possible. All right, interesting point about the season being more in season. Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, which I like, because you would buy all these fall clothes and then you couldn't wear them for months. But if you didn't buy them, they'd be gone by the time, like I'm always like, oh, it's fall, I need a winter coat. And then I didn't make it to the winter coat store in time, so I can't get a winter coat. So that's gonna be less. Can we email you for a 20-minute consultation? Yes, if you contact me, makersrow.com/V-Mora. So I've pinned that on there. So 20-minute consultation. I'll send you a little questionnaire so I can get to know you, and then we'll spend 20 minutes based around what you'd like to talk about. Don't forget to have models sign image photo releases. Yeah, so you definitely need a contract. How are you using those photos? Who has rights to those photos? Are they allowed to use the photos? All of that should be established prior to entering. So many times you think, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to give them some of my garments, and then they're going to take the photos, and then I'm going to send the garments back. And sometimes they think the garments are gifted because you didn't clarify that. So setting all of this up front, even if it's a friend, even if you're working with someone you know, setting up everything in a business, matter-of-fact way will only help both of you. Okay, so I think that is it for all the questions. I'm going to be back here next Monday at 3 o'clock for 5 tips on manufacturing. And yeah, go to Embark Live. Remember, if you use the promo code ANNA, you'll get the first 6 months for free. It's a platform where all the professionals go and post videos, Q&As. It's like a YouTube for the fashion industry, so it's really cool. And Makers Row is amazing. If you're not a member, you can find so many resources there. So thank you guys all for joining, and we'll see you next Monday. Okay. I don't know how to end this. Oh, finish.